Post this to Twitter real quick.
All right, so yeah, so it's recording right now. It should show the live that's on here. Oh, it literally just automatically starts, so then we're good to go. And then
All
yeah,
right.
Terry, once you're good to go, we're good. We are actually live right now, but I don't think anybody's here, so we're okay so far.
Did you post it on Instagram already?
I don't know
Did you
how to
post a
post the
story?
link on here, so I have no idea how to. I
Oh,
this
you
is
have
how
to go and okay, you have to go in and add a sticker. So there's a stick up there at the top where it says stickers. You press sticker, and one of the stickers is a link.
Oh, okay.
Now I don't. I think they because it used to be you had to have 10K on Instagram for it to work, but I think they opened it up for anybody. So
Hang on. So top live stream chat. Oh, share. Okay.
no. There's a. Are you on Instagram?
No, I'm on. I'm just posting it on Twitter with
Okay,
Twitter or X or whatever they call it now. Oh God,
Twitter X.
there's a bunch of people in here. Yo, yo. Yeah, we're just posting up the link right now for the live stream, but give me like 2 seconds to get this going. Let me just. I'm terrible at this, to be honest with you. But we're gonna get that.
Good thing I'm not driving today, so you better get it going, brother.
Yeah, trust me. Hang on 1 sec. I think I could post it. You know what? Let people find it. I'm gonna let people find that on the Instagram thing. They already saw the story. They know where to go. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another weekly live stream. We actually might be doing a couple of these this week because we got some stuff coming up. But I got my man's Terry Warfield in the building.
What's
We've
up?
been trying to get this going for a while. Like this has been a minute since we've been trying to do
Yeah.
this. But yeah, so you guys, first of all, let me know if everyone can hear the audio. Make sure the visuals is okay. Last week, I love you, Brandon, but it did not go so well on the connection. So we're just gonna make sure everything's going good before we start going. The Swole crew is here. Yeah, honestly, yeah, I could side with that. I think that is. I think if we were gonna say the top five, I guess like physically biggest people, I guess in our space would be like what me, you, Peter, Jason, and a sleeper, Josh Yo. That's my wild card is Josh Yo.
Nah,
He,
Josh is not.
yo, I remember.
No,
I
I tell
remember.
you who. Scott
Uh,
Sims.
oh, okay, yeah. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah. You're right. I remember meeting Josh Yo and having when the first time like I don't look up at people often, but I met Josh Yo and Gerald Undone at the same time, and I was like, "What in God's? I didn't. That's what y'all look like out of a desk. What the? All right, cool.
Man, Gerald is mad. I mean, I'd have been around both of them a bunch of times, and both of them are ridiculous. You know who else is ridiculously tall? Somebody said it's Terry the fella leaving the FX3 for the ZV1. You mean left it? Yeah. But Jayhawk, have you ever been around
Yeah, no, no,
Johnny?
no. I
Man,
know about that. My dude Jayhawk is deceivingly taller than you think he is. Like you know that he's. I know he's not short, but I didn't know he was that tall. You know what I mean?
bruh, the first time I saw him, and I'm not a small dude. I'm like, I ain't gonna say 6 feet, but I'm like around 5'11". I'm not a small dude. When I saw Johnny, I felt tiny, bro. I wanted to hit him. Like,
Damn.
like, bro, why are you so big, dude?
He was square up, bro. Just like
Pause.
no, he's a square up. Just so you know.
Square up.
Uh, right on saw your video. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, people are asking about it anyways, and like, you don't have to prove or explain anything to me. But your switch from the FX3 to the ZVE1, as much as cameras are tools, what? And I already watched the video already, but what are some of the things that you're experiencing since leaving, like since between selling it and kind of using the EV1 more full time? Like, how's that going for you?
So two things. I think number one, I got to step back and be grateful that I have access to several cameras. So my decision probably wouldn't have been the same if I could only have one camera, right? But I have other cameras that I can easily punch in to fill whatever gaps that the FX3 did. So with that being said, I use the ZV. I'm using the ZVE1 right now, and this is a perfect example of why, for me, a solo content creator who only deals with YouTube stuff. I don't shoot client stuff anymore. It makes more sense for me. You know,
Mm.
like I'm live streaming right now with one freaking cable. If this was the FX3, I would have had to get a capture card out, do this, do that. And I know it's 2 years old, and that's part of the reason. So I know the new FX3, whenever it comes, whatever it's called, we'll have it. But at this point, I always tell people buy the camera that works the freaking best for you right now. And right now, for what I need it for, the ZVE1 can give me the image quality, it can give me the dynamic range, and it's small, and it's got a whole bunch of extra AI features that actually help me out as a creator. So right now, the only thing I missed from the FX3 were two things. First of all, like preparing for this live stream right now, I usually just put the top handle on and plug my XLR mic right into the top handle. Well, can't do that. So I had to DJI mic with a wireless mic. But the only other thing I miss is the dexterity. So the extra controls that the FX3 has because it's got so many freaking buttons, and the ZVE1 is pretty much everything on the screen. So some adjustments, but right now I'm cool.
Nah, it's sick, man. Nah, like so. Speaking of tools, because obviously like I use all the FX line cameras and stuff, and there was times where exactly what you're talking about the live stream, I got screwed because we were doing a shoot for DeAndre Hopkins, and I bought everything right. I have the FX6, the A7 IV, the FX3, and that's something, and the FX30, and I didn't realize that the FX3 didn't have that live stream feature. So I
Yep.
go there. I think I'm ready to go. I think I got everything good to go. And it was a last minute shoot and it was on a holiday. So I couldn't even buy anything if I need to buy anything. And then I go in there and I'm like, and I brought all cameras thankfully. And then I find out I'm like, oh shoot, the FX3 I can't export audio. I get video
Right.
no problem, but I can't do the audio. And that's where I realized I'm like, oh, you know what? Like you have to, and again, we're all blessed that we can use cameras like this to find that stuff out because
Yep.
what would happen if you didn't have access to all those cameras and like you bought the FX3 thinking it's going to do everything and then you get lost at the end of the day because it doesn't have that one extra use, right? So yeah, no, it's really good that ended up working out and being the tool that like you need, you know what I mean?
Yep. And I want to throw this in here real quick. I promise y'all I'm not a creep sitting in some random daycare. uh, I actually don't have power at home right now, so I'm in my sister-in-law's daycare center. Uh, I got all of my stuff. I got my NAS over here. I got my microphones, camera, laptop. So that's where I'm at right now. So I promise you, I'm not a creeper sitting in a random daycare.
Now like so tell me kind of about the tornado thing. Is it just your like is it all Cleveland's down or like how to like kind of explain that part? Because first of all, sorry that happened. Like that's wild, but
It was probably one of the scariest moments of my life. Hold on one second. Kenny, call your brother and tell him I'm streaming because he just called me. But anyways, we never get tornadoes. Can you hear me?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Oh, give me 1 second because it switched to. Bro, what are you doing? Hold on. Technical difficulty.
No problem. No problem.
Why is my audio coming out the laptop? Please hold.
Now, for all you guys that are in the chat, oh, it's still coming out of my laptop. You're
Yeah,
fine.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you.
And all of my options are grayed out.
Hang on one thing. We have to restart the chat. See, I don't think you can't switch mic to speakers once Riverside's on.
Oh, I'm gonna just leave out and I'll join right back in.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
All right.
Guys, give us 1 second. 1 second. All right, yeah. So we had a little bit of technical difficulty.
All right, I think I'm back.
You're back. Okay, cool, perfect. Yeah, no, I had to restart the stream too because I think my microphone was playing off my laptop. So it is what it is. Excuse me one
That's
second.
crazy. So is it the same link?
Yep, same link. We're back on the stream, so we're good to
Okay.
go.
I don't know. So what happened is I had a call come through, and I guess that call messed everything up. But anyways, we never have tornadoes here, and that heat wave came through, and man, we had like tornado warnings all night, and woke up the next morning, no power, trees down, power lines down, And thankfully, we made it through the night, but we haven't had power since then. So,
Oh
total
shoot.
freak occurrence, the weather here, man. But just making it work while we here.
Hey man, you know what? Blessed everybody's safe too, right? Like everyone's safe. Like you obviously everyone hopefully everybody's okay and stuff like that as well, right? But that stuff is wild. Like in Toronto, we'll get bad weather, but we won't get like enough that power will go out for the whole city or whatever. I think there was one what like 20 years ago almost. But yeah, no, I've never had that really in my adult life. So that's A, it's pretty scary, but B, really nice that everybody in your family and you and yours are like everyone's good, right? So that's
It was a
awesome.
moment where we're like, "Is this really real? Like a tornado warning?" And then we went outside, and I'm like, "Yeah, we need to go in the basement
Yeah.
because yeah, we need to go in the basement." It was terrifying because I think it's a little different, when you see a tornado coming in broad daylight. I ain't saying that's not scary. Like obviously that's still freaking scary,
Yeah.
but at night you don't know if it's coming. If it could be right
Mm,
behind your house, and you wouldn't know it. So it was just sitting in the basement praying, bro. I was praying over everybody, like Father, just protect us tonight. And thankfully we made it through, but it was definitely scary.
yeah. That you know what I would say it's even like in the last kind of thing to touch on because obviously that's not the best situation, but I would honestly argue a tornado coming in the daytime scarier because like with daytime you expect just nice things to happen. You know what I mean?
I think I would prefer a daytime tornado than a nighttime
Yeah.
tornado because the nighttime tornado is such like you don't the only thing you can rely on is like your hearing. You
True.
can't rely on vision because you can't see
Yeah.
nothing.
True. That makes
So
sense.
it's like, oh man, if I'm gonna get creamed, pause. That sounded crazy. If I'm,
Yo, honestly, that's not the most outlandish thing that's been said on this live. Honestly,
wow,
that's
that's
not.
foul. I
We were
gotta
talking about
pause that.
black magic cameras and a potential Panasonic collab, and it got real weird. So, honestly, it's not the worst that's been on there. But
All
there
right,
are
well, if
some
I destroyed is the word I should have used. If I was
just
gonna get destroyed by a tornado, I don't know when it's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen. So it was scary, mad scary.
that's wild, man. All right, so we got a ton of chats. Actually, we had a ton of this stuff too. So a couple people actually are asking about have the A7 III, wondering if I should get the FX3 or wait to see if there's another camera dropping soon, either an A7S4 or else. My thing with this is, and I think everybody has to just realize this, Sony on some gangster stuff. They're going to come out with cameras, like whether you like it or not, and they're going to come out with them on a regular enough basis where I wouldn't even try to hold my breath for the next one because then the next one is going to happen almost literally later on, right? And that's not necessarily a thing where and I think it might actually be in some respects a good thing because I think there's two things that happen. One, they found a system and a sensor that works. So I'm just going to reconfigure it to different types of users. And then two, if I like competitively, it's almost like I don't care what camera you buy. I just want you to grab it from us. And any business that has the ability to to widen out their product offering where anybody at any budget level can use it under one mount, then you would probably do the same thing. So I would say like don't wait if it has the stuff that you already like and need and it's a price that you could afford. Just cop it, but then also kind of separate you have to do a little bit of separating from the fear of missing out on the next camera that comes out. And if you can't do that, then maybe hold off. But if it's something if you need 4K, 10-bit, 24 frames a second for most things, anything that's currently offered right now is going to be as good as it's going to be 6 months from now, realistically.
All right, I'll put my input in that. First of all, I get so tired of people saying, "Oh," and forget the fact that this is Sony. Okay, I don't. I'm not. I'm not like exclusive to them, but we gonna call a spade a spade. I get so sick of people saying like, "Oh, yo, Sony used the same sensor in this camera," but let me give you an analogy that you might be able to relate to a little bit better. Mopar makes the Hemi, a
Mm,
5.7 liter V8. Do you know how many vehicles that they make that are all different types of vehicle made for different purpose with the same engine? They make Rams, make Jeeps, they make Dodge Chargers, they make Challengers, they make SUVs, they make vans. Like who cares if you make an engine or a heart of something that can be transplanted to different platforms and transform those platforms for a different user base, then why wouldn't I? So I'm not
yeah.
mad when Sony says, hey, we have this 12.2 megapixel sensor that we'll use in the FX6, FX3, ZVE1, A7S3. They're all made for different types of users. So I just get sick of hearing that. The second thing is I always tell people buy what's gonna work best for you right now. The only exception would be, I've seen some of the comments in here, and I can't speak on any upcoming cameras because I don't freaking know. But if you heard a rumor that something might be coming, that might be up your alley, and the launch might be close, then maybe in that situation, if you're looking to buy a camera, then maybe it's a good idea to wait a couple days to see what comes. But if you're not in that like close window where you think something's about to come and you need to buy a camera, like you said, there's always gonna be that next piece of gear on the horizon. If it unless you just got the money and unless you just like balling out and trying new cameras out, then you're never going to be happy unless you stop the whole gear chase. And I've made a video about this because we're part of that problem. We're always reviewing this expensive and new stuff, but at the same time, we don't go out buying all this stuff. We review it and give it back most times. So I'm not, I'll speak for me. I don't go buy every new camera that comes out. I buy which one works for me right now. I don't care about the next one unless it has something that I absolutely need right now, which most cases is not the case, because what you have is more than good enough. You probably just aren't maximizing it. Then it's silly to chase gear unless you just got the money.
Yeah. I would almost say too, and like to the point, because I saw that video as well, but I would almost offer a counterpoint to, I find a lot of creators that review gear, they do a couple of things that like I haven't seen previously, but a lot of people do now. One, they pre-qualify whether the thing is borrowed or whether the thing is for theirs to keep. And B, they qualify who the market for that person is for, rather than saying it's the best thing ever and that you should buy it. Because then what ends up happening is that if you eradicated every channel that reviewed gear, well, then anytime something did come out, what the first thing everybody that would be wondering is who has a first-hand opinion on it. So like you have to it kind of goes both ways, right? Like on one side, yes, I think that the people that are doing reviews and talking about camera gear in a disingenuous fashion and trying to play up the fear of missing out to tell everyone to buy everything, obviously those things are stuff that nobody agrees with is a good thing. But on the flip side, is if you're doing your due diligence, then sometimes, and unfortunately, it's hard to expect this from audience members because I don't know people, and it's way too many people, that also looking at it from a perspective of someone says like, hey, this person is trying it out, not necessarily to force me to buy it, but if I do encounter it, here's what I should expect. Because this happened yesterday to me. Somebody, I guess, saw a YouTube short of mine or whatever, and he was like, oh, I'm at the camera store, I'm about to buy a camera, I think that fits for me, and the guy at the store says I should buy a different camera, what should I do? And I said, just whatever the plan A. If plan A is still plan A, get plan A, right? You don't worry about what the people are telling you. But he's like, yeah, but there's so many cameras around. I'm like, yes, but it would be worse off if no one told you what any of them do, and you have to figure that out for yourself. In fact, you probably would spend more money trying to figure out what fits for you if we all decided that we were going to go silent on the idea. But I do think on our end, it's like, well, you have to be a little like. The transparency I find now is far better than it was before, where people were like, hey, I borrowed this, or this is a sponsorship deal, or I will be giving this back. Like, I applaud Gerald for it, where he'll tell you, like, the context of why I have this thing is I literally have this just to tell you what it is, right? Because otherwise, not everybody has the opportunity to take a month out with a piece of camera gear, tell you about it as far as I can test it, so that you actually aren't wasting your money. I actually think the gear review community does better in terms of saving money, so you're not buying things constantly to try to figure out what works for you, or turning to Facebook groups where people that don't know you, don't care about you, and have actually no incentive to actually give you good information, because it's not like you're not gonna come back to that person and nothing happens to them, right? So yeah, I will say that there is a little bit of a gear acquisition problem, but I also think that kind of goes both ways between viewer and the creator that's making it.
I also feel like a lot of people think that like I don't care what camera you buy. I could care less. I'm just trying to test it out, let you know how it worked out for me, and at the end of the day, you're grown. Like, it's up to you to make your purchasing decision. I don't care if you buy it or not. A lot of people, oh, you're gonna, like, I'm not making money. If I sell you a camera, I might make $15 off of it, if that. That's nothing. That is nothing. So when I'm making these videos, I always say, hey, either I'm buying this or I'm not buying it. If I'm not buying it, they sent it to me to test out. I have to give it back. It is what it is.
What I like about yours is that, like, when you have a choice between two different cameras, you give a for and against, like a dedicated video for and against, right? And that's where I kind of wish I had the time to make, because I make so many videos, so I'm like, it's hard for me to kind of go back and forth. So I try to put like both ends in one video. But I love those, like the S5, the S5 II Mark, or the S5 IIX, and the A7 IV, I was like, oh, this is perfect, because if I'm watching it and someone's like, hey, I have X, Y, and Z disagreement, you just like you play it on both sides, where if somebody is actually in a confusion standpoint, they're able to really get a fleshed out idea of what things work for them, right? And that's also another thing that I find is, just because, and you're saying that you switched to the ZVE1 because you don't necessarily have client work anymore. I don't think that the gear review community should only be professionals in the video production industry. I don't think so.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
No, I don't think so. I think that's ridiculous, because if you think about it, if I tell you that 4 times 4 is 16, and you tell someone 4 times 4 is 16, whether or not I'm a math teacher doesn't invalidate the fact that 4 times 4 is 16. A sensor with, you know what I mean? Like the specs and how you use something. Yes, obviously, do people want to see practical application? Absolutely. But my biggest thing that I realize, especially because like I'm more new to the game than most people, right? I remember trying to do a breakdown with the FX6 about doing a campaign for Gymshark. It's a multi-billion-dollar global company. No one cared it was Gymshark. Everyone, the first order condition for most people watching stuff were, what can I get away from this? And that's where I started to realize, I'm like, oh, people don't care about the jobs that I'm on. They just care about what they could take away from it. The job is the icing on the cake. If I get to work with a celebrity brand or a global brand or Nike, icing on the cake. But outside of those confines, like, you just care about what you can learn. And that doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who's an esteemed DP or an esteemed camera operator or someone who has films under their belt. Because if you needed to get that information from that person, you probably had to pay for it. And if you're not willing to pay for it, then unfortunately, I'm sorry, you're going to have to accept this really high quality content from these YouTubers that are able to use it for as long as they possibly can to give you the information as honestly and as helpfully as they possibly can, right?
Hold on. Somebody said, is the Matrix trying to play Terry, or is my internet chopped and screwed? So let me say this again. I'm in the daycare right now because I don't have power at home. So the internet here is not the fastest. So this is my sister-in-law's daycare. So I'm trying to make it work. I had already promised I was going to do this, and I try to be a man of my word. So I apologize if my internet is not the fastest, and I'm getting if I'm looking like a Minecraft character. Sorry about that.
You know what's important though? Audio is great, and people will overlook poor visuals if the audio is on fire. So this is a testament.
That's a nugget real quick. That's a nugget real quick. So hey, if y'all don't know, people will watch a trash video as long as they can hear it. But if it's a great video and they can't hear it, they're gonna scroll off of it. Yeah. But I wanted to touch on what you said real quick. I can't stand this fake battle in the camera world, like YouTubers against freaking filmmakers. I don't care. If somebody asks me, am I a filmmaker? No. I use cameras to make YouTube videos, and I just like messing around with cameras. But that doesn't make me inferior or superior to somebody who's in the film world because they're using it on X, Y, and Z set. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. At the end of the day, like you said, it's about finding the people that are giving you the information that you need for your application. So if you come to my channel looking for somebody who's got professional, on-set filmmaking experience, it ain't me. I'm just a nerd who like camera gear, and I talk about cameras and give tips and stuff out. And that's just what it is. So I just can't stand this quote unquote beef that's going back and forth. Who freaking cares, yo?
No, and I would also argue, I think the language even around filmmaking has drastically changed, because when that world existed, we didn't have things like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, different platforms of video. So my big thing is like, hey, it's now, I find the term is more used the same way that we say athlete, and you'd never hear LeBron James telling you that golf isn't a real sport because of some criteria he made up, right? Like he's Steph Curry isn't going to go and say Tiger Woods ain't ish because he plays golf, because at some level there is some sort of application. There's a skill overlap. Like, even as much as making YouTube videos, as much as people say like, oh, that's not real filmmaking, I'm like, some people throw down some really high quality stuff that I would even argue the people that claim to be in the filmmaking industry actually don't have some of the skill sets as some people on YouTube, because they have to learn how to do and make engaging videos by themselves and learn a lot of those skills, right? There's so much overlap there that I don't necessarily think you could draw a line in the sand between YouTuber and filmmaker. And also, I don't think that it's one or the other. You can be both and then.
I was
And
going
I
to say, I think there's a merge there, right? Because if you really want to be technical, are you creating a film? Yes, you are. It might not be a cinematic feature film. It might not be a, $50,000 budget small indie film, but if you are picking up something and filming something and there's some type of narrative, whether the narrative is just a gear review, whether the narrative is just I wanted to pick something up and pick the camera up and film the couch over there, one could argue that that is a film, and by technicality then you would be a filmmaker because you created it. So I think that word needs to be either like redefined. I'm okay with them saying calling it something different, or like I don't know if I'm making sense or not, but maybe there needs to be a redefinition of people who work on film sets, right?
yeah.
Because filmmaker doesn't automatically mean somebody who works on a film set anymore. A filmmaker could literally be the person with an iPhone creating something for YouTube. By technicality, that's a film.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Actually, I have one analogy for it because I remember getting because I only find it from it's only usually North American commenters that make that distinction. But I tried to explain something because my family's from West Africa. My parents watch Ghanaian or Nigerian or Nollywood movies, and if you've ever seen one of those, it looks like it's filmed on a camcorder from 2003. Audio's peaking. There's no lighting. There's a narrative, but it looks like somebody took an iPhone 7 and they did. And but the thing is, the narrative and the story most of the time is hilarious. And I dare anybody to try to draw the line between what their standards of filmmaking are to go into a room full of Nigerians and tell them their movies aren't films. And I'm like, if you don't have enough confidence to say that to a group of people because it's from a different type of the world, then yes, there is different types of filmmaking. You can't invalidate one's, especially in 2023. If we're going to advocate for anyone's ability to self-identify, then that can't stop when we talk about filmmakers versus YouTubers. That has to also extend outside of the mainstream conversation. I'm not going to sit here and be like that person's not a real filmmaker because of criteria that I just made up that my buddies and I agree on, because that's ridiculous. And also, if that's what it takes for that person to become a really good creator in the filmmaking space, to call themselves that before you think they're ready to, then I say they should just do it, because that might be the thing that keeps them going. And if you want to take that away to make yourself feel better, that's on you.
there's a great question in the chat I would like to address real quick, because I answered this question in a video I have releasing in the next couple of days. Then the question says, do you feel like Sony is releasing too many cameras in a short amount of time? There have been more camera releases than software updates in the past few years. I wish more camera companies would. And here's why. First of all, it's the evolution of technology, right? Hate it or love it, it is the evolution of technology. Second of all, if I'm a company trying to saturate a niche of people, it only makes sense for me to create a product for everybody in that demographic for them that they can afford. So I think it's silly personally if I had the money and I only created an expensive product, because then I'm Xing out everybody below who can't afford it, right? So are they coming out with too many cameras? I don't think so. I think what they're trying to do, and y'all have to remember, these companies have billions of dollars, millions of dollars to invest in R&D and market research. They're a lot smarter than you when it comes to, is this camera going to fit? Is it going to sell? They know more than all of us think we know. So if they came out with a product and they put all this money into, launching it, that means that they did the research back there to figure out that they're going to make money off of this, which means at the bottom end of it, it's somebody's going to buy it. So I'm not against them coming out with camera after camera after camera, because if just like any other company who wants to be the front runner, the way you stay in front is by leading the charge. So they always have to continually push it forward and push it forward. And you just can't, like, it's not their problem, it's your problem that you feel like you need to chase every single one of them. So that's my take on it.
No, I think I agree with that, because I feel like if I go to a restaurant menu and there's 30 items on the menu, I don't complain there's too many items. I just look at it and see which one do I like. Like, I'm
Right.
not gonna walk into McDonald's and be like, "Yo, there's too many options here." I know I'm getting the nuggets. Like, I know I'm getting this. I know I'm getting the 10 piece with the double sweet and sour sauce, the medium fry, and the Diet Coke with no ice. Like, I know I'm gonna get that. I don't need to be overwhelmed because there's 15 combos anymore. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I know I'm getting the nuggets. I know I'm a nugget eater. I know I don't buy the McDonald's hamburger. Right. So if they get a filet o fish hamburger combo, I doesn't. That's not important to me.
I just want to say, bro, you on fire with these analogies today.
Yo, I'm just farming this vertical content. These are all getting cut up. These are all vertical videos that are coming out
I
later.
ain't even. I'm not even mad at you, but that's a great point. Like you don't walk into a steakhouse and they got one steak. They got the top tier steak. They got the middle steak. They even got the cheap steaks for the people who are soy boys and don't have enough money to get a good steak. So they have something on there for freaking everybody. So I think asking that question is the same type of question like you just said. Is too many steaks on the menu too many?
Yeah,
No, you
you know
just
what I
find
mean?
the one that you like.
Yeah, and I think that's where, and that's what I really like about like the new kind of like, and I don't even say it's a new culture. I think it's just more apparent. But the culture of like the camera space as it regards to YouTube is that people will, you're starting to see people integrate a little bit of what they do, even if they're not professionals. They'll integrate what they do with the things that they use. So somebody that resonates with the person, like those, that's kind of their guiding star, right? And some people have multiple guiding stars. Like I recently found out that like the same people that watch like myself and like Cam's in the chat too, we have completely different departments of content, but people will watch like one then the other, almost to the point where I think I was talking to somebody yesterday where they thought that like they would conflate the two videos together, right? But some people will have multiple guiding stars, and if you're in the professional realm, then listen to those types of people for what you want to do. You're not someone that's going to buy an FX6 shouldn't be wondering about what A7 IV whatever is coming out, because you've already identified you're not that type of consumer, right? So to which someone that is buying a 6700, if a Venice 3 comes out, it's almost like it's something that's cool, but it's not something that you've identified, like you might have identified that is in your wheelhouse of something you want to purchase anyways, right? So I think people like you have to kind of do that, and I find it nowadays people are qualifying that beforehand rather than saying you just need everything.
Yeah, I also think people have a problem with as soon as something new comes out, automatically thinking that what they have right now is now inferior. And that's not the case, man. And I want to speak up again on this problem because I recognize that we are always pushing this new stuff on you, but don't feel like if something new comes out that the fantastic camera that you thought was fantastic yesterday is now not so fantastic anymore because there's a new one out. Man, use what you freaking got and shut up complaining. At the end of the day, use what you got. And honestly, somebody that's skilled, it doesn't matter what tool they have. It doesn't matter if I know somebody who's a great painter, what kind of brush give them, they're going to freaking make a great paint either way because they're skilled and they know how to adapt. The camera world is the same freaking way. It doesn't matter what camera you give me. You could give me an A5100 right now, a lens, a light, and a few other accessories, and I can make magic just like somebody with camera gear that costs 3 times as much. So it's not now don't get it twisted. Once you have the skill set, the gear will help you enhance your skill set. But it's not a requirement that you continually get new gear with the expectation that it's going
Yeah.
to make you better. Your skill set needs to improve before anything.
Yeah, or even and it's funny because I'll talk about buying the cameras you need, but I also bought a Red 3 weeks ago. But that came a lot from where my freelance life has changed and where my workflow has changed, where I see things that are going right. Like the established skill set is already there, at least to the degree that I'm pretty happy with, and also the reasons by which some people buy certain things isn't necessarily because one thing is worse and one thing is better. We were talking about this on a live before, and like the main reason why I like the Komodo X is because I don't understand it. I used a Komodo for about a month last year. I had certain opinions about it, but it was based off of only having it for a month, and I was like, hey, you know what? I don't know how this ecosystem works, and blessed enough to have things like YouTube and my freelance job. So like, even when I sold my FX6 stuff, I could just transition over. But it's something where I'm like, you know what? I get the best out of myself when I have a sense of not understanding.
And
Where
do you know? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and then so getting into that system, there's new things that have come up, right? Uh, I start to think differently about how I shoot. I'm a little bit more methodical, and even getting into new jobs, just because as much as people say like gear doesn't matter in the professional world, I have a different experience because since having one, I've been brought on to different things as an operator and sometimes a DP based on having a certain amount of equipment. Um, but yeah, I find that you get the best out of myself from non-understanding, right? And when I think what happens is once you've gained a certain skill set, uh, if you just have an interest in a system, that doesn't mean the old one's bad. It just means you have an interest in if that makes you better for it, whatever. Um, I don't think
And
people need to justify themselves all the time.
also, like, I tell people this all the time. Like, as long as you are buying new things without the expectation that if you suck, that this new thing is going to make you better immediately, then I say if you just want to try something else, or if you just like new gear, you got the money for it, okay. Just don't buy things with the expectation that because this camera is 5,000 and mine is only 500, but I don't know what a freaking exposure triangle is, that's going to help you change anything. So I just
Yeah.
want to throw that out there.
Yeah, we had a big. Hang on, I think people wouldn't care much about Sony's. It didn't. What? Hang on a second. I'm trying to read this last one. I think people wouldn't care as much about the new Sony's if it didn't obsolete their old gear. That's a calculated business move by Sony. I don't.
Can I,
I don't
can I,
entirely
please,
agree with that one, but I'll let you spin on that one because you have more
can
experience
I
than
go
I do.
first? Okay,
Yeah, go
thanks.
for it.
Okay.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right, thank you for allowing me to go first, because I could. All right, so I used to feel the same way, right? And I'm not about to act like some of it is not purposeful. You know, Apple does it. Every company has some type of planned obsolescence in the works, right? But there's also technical limitations that a lot of y'all don't think about. For example, and I only know this because I spent hours talking to Sony engineers, and the engineer that I talk to is not a fluff type of guy. He's not a giving you excuse or cover up. He'll tell me sometimes I don't know what Sony's doing, right? So I had this conversation with him specifically about FX3 A7S3. Why wouldn't the A7S3 or FX3 be able to get things that like the ZVE1 has? It's the same sensor, it's the same image chain. We think it's the same processor, but the keyword there is we think it's the same processor. So I'm gonna give you an example. Intel comes out with a new i5 chip every year, and it's always called the Intel Core i5. Does that mean that every year that the processor is the same? No, because if you pay attention to the second part of the processor, there's a different number at the end. Just because two cameras have, for example, Bion's XR, doesn't mean that those processors are identical. So the FX3 has a Bion's XR. The FX6 has Bion's XR. The ZVE1 has Bion's XR. They're not the same. So there's things that the ZVE1 can do. There's things that the FX3 can do that the A7S3 just can't do because it doesn't have the processing oomph, even though we think it may be. So the next question I asked, well, that doesn't make sense if it's the same processor. And there are changes to the circuitry. There's changes to memory allocations and things like that, where it just might not be capable of doing the things that we think that it should be able to do. Now, again, let me circle back. Do I think that there's some purposeful segmentation there and purposeful obsolescence there? Yes. And I've said that publicly. I've said it to Sony, but it's not always what we think. It's not always, hey, Sony's holding back this firmware update because they want to force us to something new. Sometimes the camera just ain't capable. 7S3, there's a reason why it still hasn't gotten certain things because it's just not capable of doing it.
No,
And I'll shut
that's
up.
facts. No, that's facts, and that was kind of the thing that I didn't even know that. Like I had the same thoughts about that. I was like, how do you have one camera with the same sensor and five different bodies, and they all do drastically different things? And like I think on one end, it's more like they would have to make it more expensive. So unless you're willing to pay the money to have that more expensive thing with everything on it, which I think they probably like I'm sure they did the market research to find out that people maybe don't want to spend even more money than like an FX3 in order to get everything that they want out of that sensor. But at the same time, like yeah, they're like every business does it. We do it. We know what no pictures this way. Like I work as a freelancer. I don't keep my rates the same from 2019, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Like if I don't do that, then like it's weird. Like if I know that whatever my skill set and my rate is going to be today isn't going to be the same 5 years from now, and I plan for it, that doesn't mean people should work for me today and not work for me tomorrow. That doesn't that you know what I mean? Like that's just the way the business works. I think there was a comment here about Sony needing to be more upfront with it. to be fair, they are. Like, they tell you in the launch videos that, like, hey, this thing has an AI chip and it's capable of doing this. This thing has a processor and it's capable of doing this. The firmware updates, they tell you in advance, like they tell you, hey, it's going to be supported on here and not on here. But with the firmware updates, I'm sure when they're making these updates, like, it's hard to it's hard for, maybe if you're making the update, to be like, hey, maybe we can't make this available on the camera's previous, or we can't make it on the camera's future, right? Just like what you said, where the processor and the sensors are going to be different, then so are the firmware updates, and maybe they've only figured out how to do it on certain ones. And if they are going to be different, then if you make a firmware for one, then it might not work on the other. And I know that might sound confusing, but also even on editing programs, the FX30, the A6700, sorry, the FX6 A7S3, FR7 or whatever it's called, can do ProRes RAW in some degree. When I go to my RAW converter, when I want to convert to Cinema DNG to DaVinci, I have to get a license for each one, because each camera, even though the sensors are same, are decoded differently. So if that's as hard to do as to get a different, and I mean, the license thing, you could have just made it free, but if it's a different system to decode them, then I'm only going to assume that some of the firmware updates are going to be different. Maybe it's planned, maybe it's not, but at the very least, for the most part, a lot of things they kind of tell you, just people ignore it and go right to how much can you shoot in 4K 120 frames a second, right?
All right, so I want to throw in one other thing, because somebody says something about an A7S3 not getting shutter angle. At the beginning of this conversation, I said I will not make an excuse for Sony, because there are things that make no sense. And I've told them this. I've been very vocal with Sony. What are y'all doing, and why does my FX3 not have freaking shutter angle? You could tell me all you want to about it's not powerful enough. I don't want to hear none of that.
Yeah, that's
There's
live.
certain things I'm willing to accept. Okay, maybe my processor in this computer, whatever, just doesn't have the juice. But you ain't going to tell me that a GH2, which was a processor from 10 years ago, can handle shutter angle, and my newfangled $4,000 FX3 can't. No, that's BS. So my point is, there are some things that I've admitted that I accept that for whatever reason, and maybe it's purposeful, maybe they don't. Maybe it is a thing of, hey, we don't want to put too much cinema salsa here because we want them to go there. That probably is, not probably, that is the case. But at the same time, you also have to look at, okay, you have to look at something. I'm going to use Lumix as an example. Lumix gives you all of the sauce. You got shutter angle, you got anamorphic support, you got vector scopes, waveform, noise reduction control. Like, the list goes on and on and on. But why? Okay, and I have a working relationship with Lumix, but you got to think about the why. Lumix had to. They had to give you all that stuff, because they couldn't give you the things like autofocus. They couldn't give you the things like all of those things that Sony was giving you. They couldn't, so they had to make it up somewhere else. Now, playing feels a little different now. Lumix has all this stuff. Lumix has, autofocus and stuff too. So now, and I've said this in the video, Sony, there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting it anymore, because minus the recent AI stuff, all things being considered, a lot of things are pretty much even now when it comes to Fuji, Lumix, Sony, Canon. Everybody is basically doing the same thing. But again, I don't know why they haven't included it yet. I've asked the engineers, why don't we have these simple things? And, one way or another, they either said, hey, it's never going to come, or pretty much it's not going to come. So don't hold your breath for shutter angle.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm like, I always talk like two sides out of my mouth, because at one end, I'm like, yes, shutter angle should just be in cameras. It's a very simple thing to do. It doesn't seem like the most technologically advanced thing to do. It's literally just math, and then put it on the screen. But then on the other side of my mouth, I'm just like, yeah, well, if you could multiply things by 2, you're okay. Just save them as custom settings. Like, I always like, I have like a conflicting opinion on the whole shutter angle thing, because I'm like, well, I know what 2 times 24 is. I know what 2 times 60 is, and I know what 2 times 120 is. So I'll just make custom settings, and then I'll just go to them when I need to go to them. But then at the same time, I'm
like,
like,
you're making an excuse.
Pardon?
You making an excuse.
I'm literally on both ends, because I'm like, because then I'll pick up my FX6. I'm like, oh, shutter angle's great, and then I'm like, why isn't that on there? And yeah, it's super weird. But it's a weird hill to die on. You know what I mean? It's a weird, like, they could have died on anything else. The quick menu, Cine EI on certain things. Like, they could have put it on anything else, but it just so happens to be the one of the simplest things that you could have put on to fix the problem.
I truly think it's a matter of Sony has not, and this is my personal thought. Sony has been using the same OS, right? Since who knows since what the 5100 came out. And it's got to be something that was so deeply ingrained in the original operating system that they're having a hard time recoding whatever it
Mm.
needs to be recoded to introduce shutter angle because it wasn't there from the start. Now, playing devil's advocate, they got billions of dollars. It ain't no excuse to why y'all can't get 40
Yeah.
engineers to figure this out, right? But I think it's got something to do with that. It's either that or yeah, we don't want to put it in here because then you have less reason to go buy our Sony FX6, and it could be a mixture of both. Who knows? But yeah, this horse I think is dead. I think we beat the crap out of him at this point. But I'm not against. However, somebody said that Sony needs to promise X years of firmware updates. I'm totally with that. If let me explain. If you can sell me this $4,000 camera, you should also be able to stand on it for 2 years. So I think
4.
if that were there, at minimum, right, at least promise me 2 years of firmware updates. I don't want to spend $4,000 and know that 2 years later.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, okay? If you buy a new camera 1 year into the product cycle, then what? If
Yeah.
Sony gave you a 2 year promise at the launch of the camera or whatever camera company, and you buy it a year into the product cycle, is it unfair for you to then expect Sony to give you another 2 years of support behind that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I got you. I guess the idea then is that, but I'll say, like, I guess you kind of double-edged sword yourself, right? Because if you do, say for example, you release a camera in 2023, and hang on, fix my ND here. Say you release it in 2023, and you say, hey, we're going to promise updates until 2027. Well, what I'm starting to realize too is people don't buy cameras on launch day, right? Like I all my FX30 videos are starting to pop off now. That camera came out last November.
yep.
So does that, like, if I buy it in 2026, then, like, if I have the decision to buy it in 2026 or wait till 2028, well then I'll buy nothing, right? So then on Sony's part, it's kind of like they have to be able to sell so many units, or you'd have to bring the price down, almost like accruing up until the end of the cycle to convince people to buy it. Because if I buy it in 26 and it's $8,000, well, I don't want to buy it in the last year of when it's supported and then either find out that I'm not going to get that support anymore, like a year later, and also pay the same $8,000. You know what I mean? But then you're asking a company for a lot, because obviously they have a profit margin where there's going to be the least amount they're going to sell a camera for before releasing a new one.
Oh, now let me address some of these recent comments. Let me say this again. I firmly believe Sony is purposefully withholding shutter angle, right? But I also, when I present stuff, I try to give every side of the possible argument. So if you play devil's advocate and let's say, hey, maybe there is a technical something there, then that's all I was addressing. If you came to Terry and said, hey, Terry, why do you think Sony's not giving us shutter angle? For me, it's obvious. They want you to buy FX6. I'm not making no excuse for them. I don't care if I love them or not. Like they're purposely not doing it because they want to have clear divided lines. As these cameras get more and more powerful, the cinema cameras lose a whole lot of juice in comparison to the average consumer camera, because the average consumer cameras are just as powerful with the same level of dynamic range, some of them, as a cinema camera. They give you like all of these things, so they have to, in my opinion, keep something there to really push the people. But then here's the other thing, right? Somebody who's in cinema knows the tool that they need,
That's actually a fair argument.
right?
Honestly, that's fair. Yeah.
Bro, if I know that I need to buy, for example, a Ferrari, I need a race car. I know that I want to go race on the track. I'm not thinking about a Toyota Corolla.
Yeah, facts.
So there's that argument too. But at the end of the for them, I've said it 1,000 times. Sony, we need freaking shutter angle. It ain't no excuses. I don't care what you got to do, how much money you got to pay. If one of y'all are watching, I love you, but you need to make it happen, because at this point, it's inexcusable.
You know what's hilarious? Are we taking a plane to go see them, like, tomorrow?
Yeah, we are.
like they're gonna sit, like, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna get to the airport and they're gonna just be at the airport waiting for us to be like, yo, so I heard y'all were talking yesterday.
Well, you know what, man? I'm thankful for my relationship with them, and I'm very thankful for my relationship with Lumix, because I won't deal with companies who tell me I'm not allowed to say something. Then you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong
Facts.
guy. If I can't come into my video and tell people what I don't like and what I think y'all should have done better, in my opinion, I'm not saying my opinion is fact, but if I'm not allowed to say that, then I'm the wrong person and you're the wrong company for me to work with.
Yeah.
So Sony has never came to me like, Terry, we didn't like what you said in the video, because I'm not bashing them. I'm telling you what I think is wrong with it, and I'm also telling you all the great stuff at the same time. So, I've never been approached by them or Lumix saying, "Hey, you better not say anything negative." Even in my paid content that I do with them, I tell them before I sign a contract, my opinion stays. Like if I want to give my
Yeah.
opinion, it's gonna stay, but I won't defame you guys in any way, and they're always cool with it.
You know what? And let me ask you from somebody who's I've only been really making YouTube videos seriously for like a year. That landscape is entirely new to me because I find when I, like and especially when I talk to other creators too, they used to have contracts that were like that where some people would try to dictate what they get to say and what they don't get to say. But I also like there's contracts I've read where they actually scratch that part out and they're like you could be objective. To the and also in the same vein, there are people on certain like user groups or whatever in the comment section being like, "Oh, you're paid by Sony to say whatever the case might be." Has that landscape always been where you can be objective? And you don't have to mention any brands or anything like that. But I'm always curious about that conversation because I had a lengthy one yesterday. How has the landscapes of certain things like brand deals changed from somebody who's obviously done YouTube longer than I have, from a couple years ago, I guess, until now?
I think what I see more than anything is these companies trying to take advantage of creators. When you mention crossing stuff out of contracts, you got to be careful. And I listen, I'm not gonna make it seem like I've been signing checks and cashing checks for years, right? I just started making serious money. I ain't gonna call it serious, but enough to maintain probably six figures from YouTube in the last probably 6 to 12 months. Okay, so let me paint that perspective. But since I've been signing these bigger deals and stuff like that, I have found that a lot of times brands do try to take advantage of you. Obviously, certain amount of viewership and etc. on their end. But what I've also learned is that we have to, as creators, and even if you're not creating on YouTube, just as entrepreneurs and people who, we offer a service and make money from it, we have to start nutting up and saying, no, I don't accept that.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm not signing this contract if I'm not allowed to say what I want to say in it. Or if there is a contract that you're interested in, make it clear. Okay, if you want an overview, you're going to get an overview. So if you want me to have that personal connection with my audience, you might be giving that up by me just giving you a quote unquote overview. And that's up to you to determine what works out best for your channel. But I haven't had any pushback on companies. I've scratched stuff out of contracts. I've told them, yo, that's out. We're not doing no in perpetuity crap. We're not doing no exclusivity crap unless you pay for it. And I've gotten way more confident with telling brands, if you want my likeness and you want me to do something for you, you need to pay me.
Yeah.
And I think, you'll have some brands that obviously, well, okay, but then maybe that's just not the right partnership for you. But I do have brands where they like, okay, well, here's what we want to offer. And there's a healthy negotiation that takes place to get to the end goal. So do I think it's changed any? No, I just think I've become more wise and more intelligent when negotiating these contracts. I don't think the contracts will ever change because, again, you have a company on the other side who's trying to satisfy, okay, we're an agent. We know the brand wants this amount of views for this amount of dollars that they're willing to spend. Of course, they're going to try to lowball you and get what they can out of it.
Yeah.
But stand firm and charge what you're going to charge and don't feel bad about it. And that's something that I've had to learn and I'm still learning. I don't know if that answers the question because sometimes I talk, but
No, that does.
hopefully that was helpful.
No, that does because I think and like I've also like I've had the help. I have a kind of I guess a brand manager in that respect too. So he helps me a lot with finding those things. And even when I'm inbound, like I'll send it to him and be like, hey, can you look this over and let me know what we can do here? But I'm starting to find like even in that too. I'm starting to find a lot of companies are now spinning the block. So, and I'm not going to mention any names of any companies, but I'll get a lowball offer once and be like, oh, you know what, kick rocks. I don't want to do that. And then like the video launches of that product, they don't get the views they want, and then it comes back and they're like, hey, Kofi, we really like how professional your videos are. We would really love for you to have these. And I'm like, either you're gonna send me the whole set or you're gonna pay me, or both, if and or both, right? And then they're like, oh, you know, it's out of our budget, whatever. And then a couple days will go by and they're like, hey, you know what? I talked to my manager. Like, you know that retail BS? You know, you go to the Best Buy and you want the discount and they're like, oh, let me go talk to my manager. But really they went to the break room, got a snack, found out they're in a better mood. And they came back and they said, yo, you know what? I talked to my manager. And you know what? We're going to send you the set. That happens to me all the time, which is hilarious. That being said, hang on a second real quick. How do we have this many people in the chat, but the likes aren't getting run up? So I'm just gonna let y'all know.
Y'all
if you guys
trash.
watch this. Yeah, it's free. I'm not even
trash.
asking for money. I'm not even asking you to watch the whole thing. Just click the like button. It's fine. Let the algorithm know. You got and I'll go to this in a second. You got two dark-skinned kings in the camera game having a conversation. And it deserves more likes. But actually, the only question the only comment I got in the Instagram kind of poll is that there is a little bit less melanated brothers and sisters in the game. I don't know why I said it like that. I sound like Dr. Umar. But there's less black people in the space, really. And I think it's interesting and it's cool because as I start to create more videos, I'm starting to discover more creators that I didn't know existed out of the woodwork, which is cool to see a condo. But 2 years ago, there's more now than there was when you started. Is that something that ever played a role into the content that you were making or kind of where your position is in the space?
It played a huge role. And I'll be totally transparent. First of all, I don't like. I try to dodge race conversations because they just, depending on the person that's watching it and their beliefs, they take it and try to spin narratives with it, and I just ain't got time for it. However, a spade is a spade, right? When I first started this camera channel, it plagued my mind like, yo, I don't look like Peter McKinnon. I don't look like Matty Hapuya. I don't look like this person and that person. How can I fit? Like, how could I actually make a name for myself when I don't look like them? I don't speak like them. I don't talk like them. I don't walk like them. I present information different. I'm not scared to be me, So it was daunting at first because I'm like, how could I make this work? And what I learned was sometimes you have to play into your uniqueness. So, okay, how do you overcome this? You go through it. That's the only thing. So at first I was scared of it, but now I take pride into, and again, I hate saying I'm a black creator or he's only a good creator because he's black or what. Like, no, I don't play none of that. Good creator is a good creator. A good business is a good business. I don't just support black owned business. No, I support anywhere there's good business, not just black owned. So with that being said, am I happy to see more minority come into the camera space? Absolutely, because it needs to happen. It's become something where I take pride in it now. I take pride in being that buff dude on camera who wear Jordans and jewelry and can talk that camera slang in a way that we can understand. So I love to see that minorities and not just black guys. I love to see more women in the space, more people from other nationalities in the space. And I think more companies at the same time, and I've been very vocal about this as well, need to diversify. Even to some of the companies I work with all the time, like DJI, like on the new product releases, should not be a feed full of white men. It should be a feed. There should be women in there, people who represent this demographic and this sexual preference, and like all of those things now in our day and age need to be considered. So while I take pride in being, I guess one of the quote unquote popping black dudes in the camera world, at the same time, like I just want to see diversity in everything.
Yeah, no.
And somebody just made a good point. It is helpful to learn how to color grade from people who look like us because the difference, it's a different process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's, I think they're not the highest viewed videos, but I went on like a little bit of a tangent on like how to do a lot of these cinematography things for people that are dark skinned, or just people that have different skin tones. Not even just like people that are objectively darker than anybody. One of the things I realized, and like this is kind of what got me, and shout out to YC Imaging for this one actually, because I don't even think he remembers this conversation, but he had a course a while back during the pandemic, and it was about like kind of running a YouTube channel, affiliate marketing, stuff like that. And I remember we were in a group, I think it was like 12 of us, and I was just kind of talking whatever, and I hadn't really decided if I was going to do YouTube or not. And I was like, hey, you know what? I think it's interesting that there isn't many creator. There's not many black creators in general, men or women, that have more than 100,000. At the time it was just YC and D4 Darius.
Yep.
And now there's only, and now in terms of like 100 and above, there's only one extra person in the last 3 years, and that's Brandon. And I was like, oh yeah, that's super interesting. And then, like, I would say it feels like I have permission now when I see people that look like me doing stuff. And then everybody kind of just stopped the conversation and just started staring, and I'm like, what is everyone looking at? And they're like, oh, that's because we're waiting for you to start doing YouTube. And it made that sentence made a lot of sense for me, because not only do I think that there needs to be more representation in terms of like the brand deals and stuff, but also I think there just need, like, other creators of color need to almost make that dive in. You know what I mean? I get on my boys all the time about like getting onto YouTube because they'll talk about it and they'll think about it or whatever. And I'm like, yo, just dive in, right? Like, just give yourself that amount of, like, give yourself the space to commit to doing it, and don't worry necessarily about who else is in it. But when you dive in, then you become part of that community, and everybody here, like me and you, could chop it up and not, truthfully, not meeting before, right, in person, and be able to kind of prop each other up. Like, I met Brandon Washington not long ago. I talked to Josh Martin, no matter what imaginary Twitter beef that there is going on,
Shout out to Josh.
which was
And shout out to
hilarious.
Brandon.
That was hilarious because I didn't know what was going on. I woke up to a bunch of messages. But anyways, the fact that that could happen at the same time, and it's not even just as a, oh, you're a black person, like, come over here. It's more like, no, you're a creator, and we see you're going out there and you're getting after it. Like, come onto our, like, come kind of into our cafeteria table, and we could talk about how to make this a good experience for you, right? So I think, yeah, there is a little bit of, when you see visual representation, you feel that there's that permission to jump in. But what I also
That's
really
good.
like, in my experience too, is that once I have jumped in, a lot of creators have reached out and said, like, hey, come sit at our table because we see what you're doing. We want you to be part of this thing, no matter if it is a race thing or it's just a creator thing, right? So that's also something I was really excited
I
about.
also think two things, right? I'm gonna take this back to a cultural standpoint. Okay, if you think about the black culture, technology is not part of it, right? We
Mm,
aren't raised like we're raised to glorify jewelry, cars, like, and all of that stuff. And whether that's a good or bad thing is a whole different conversation. Cameras are not something that are a big part of the black community. So that's also part of the reason why you don't see a lot of us in there, because we were never in that space, right? But now that it's starting to be more prevalent. I think what's happening, and I only know this, shout out to my dude C Kid in the chat. Me and Kofi was just talking about you before the stream. But C Kid said to me, like, not being funny, like, it's all types of buff black dudes popping up on YouTube now. Terry, you open the door, and now you're making other people who look like you, who maybe have the same demeanor or whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Now they feel more comfortable doing it too. And if I can help do that for whatever it is, then let's go. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that I've been able to inspire some people, because I've been inspired by people also.
Yeah, I would say, like, yeah, I would say when I was going up, I would watch. I don't think I missed an upload from you, YC, Volandis, and Brandon Washington. I
That's
would
so
like,
dope.
it would be like the first, like, I'd open my page, it'd be the first four. I'm like, all right, yo, let me see what uncles are saying today. Even though I think I'm the same age as YC, but whatever. I would watch every single one of them religiously, and I'm like, okay, like, oh, he integrated hip hop like that. Okay, like, I like a lot of anime. I like a lot of anime, and I watch a lot of memes, and I like a lot of comedy stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, like, am I allowed to talk about that stuff when I put in videos? And then you try it out a couple times, and you're like, oh shoot, there are other people that look like me that like Marvel movies. So when I make a joke about a Marvel movie, like, it makes sense, right? And that's something where, I don't know. I feel like there is a little bit of a separation where you don't really see. There's still creators that I feel when I watch them that I'm not watching them. I'm watching the representative. But then I
Yeah.
find, particularly in our community, we're like, yo, this is, take me as I am. I'm gonna give you the information that I promised I'd give, but hey, you might see some DMX reference you might not understand, and just roll with it. You know what I mean? So
I think it's funny, just to piggyback on this. I did a recent Sony campaign for the A7 IV sale, and is sickening, and I'm on because we're on topic. Otherwise, I don't really care about it. You should see the amount of comments on there. I mean, racial slurs, derogatory remarks, all because of how I look. I'm
Really?
not buying. Let me give you some examples. Not buying this Sony camera because I refuse to buy from a company ran by gangsters. Like I'm like, wow, that's it's that deep. Like I mean, and again, I don't let them comments affect me, but it's just crazy that
Jesus.
there's still that many people out there that hate you all because of how you look. I won't buy a camera that I want because there's a guy with this comment. I'm not buying a camera from a dude with tattoos selling it to me. Like all types of stuff. Like it's hilarious, bro.
You know
But
what then? You know what? No, you know what then? Don't have a camera. I'm sorry.
don't buy
Like
it.
if the color of my skin prevents you from buying a camera or prevents you from receiving information, be stupid. I can't help you. I can't help you because that's why. Like I've only really got one. I've gotten one racial comment, and I think mostly because uh, people, I think, at least from like a westernized North America standpoint, think that all black people only have one type of voice. And I'm like, bro, I live in not Canada. Sorry, I live in Canada, but I live in Canada, so my accent and the way that I talk, and also like my parents speak perfect English. Like my dad speaks freakishly perfectly English. Subsequently, I will speak very good English. But someone decided to leave a comment being like, "Oh, how's this guy black but he talks white?" And I'm like, "Explain to me how speaking English in a way that people understand is not part of a black experience. You have the floor." And that was the only comment I've ever gotten. But it is interesting because I like again, I haven't been in the game too long, so it's hard for me to know how deep that actually goes and like kind of like how to brace yourself for those kind of things. But that's also super unfortunate, man. Like that's such a weird. I didn't think that existed in the camera space. Like I could see like the
Oh,
entertainment niche because trolls just troll because if you watch like a Logan Paul video, then you're gonna kind of go out of your way to kind of out troll the troll kind of thing. But in the tech niche, to be like, I'm not gonna buy a piece of equipment because a black dude's talking about it is a weird and wild thing to say. But also, there's 20 other creators talking about the same camera, so like, so you're gonna buy it. It's just and
hey,
it doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna tell you what Devin, C Kid, and my dude CJ told me back when I had like I remember this conversation. We was all on the FaceTime. Shout out to CJ and C Kid. But we was all on the FaceTime, right? We was having this conversation. We was going through our spam comments, and they was like, "Man, we get so many spam comments." I'm like, "It's crazy because I don't really get none. It's all love this way, right?" But one thing CJ was like, he was like, "Yeah, just wait till you get it up in the bigger numbers. Wait till you get like 50, 60, 70. They will come, bro. They have come full force." So what I'm telling you is, you might not have experienced it now, but the more you grow, it's gonna come, and it's unfortunate that we have to deal with it. But it is, it is what it is. It just,
Yeah, it happens. Hold on, let me get these super chats real quick because I missed a bunch of them because I don't know how to do this live stream thing yet. Race Mode Daily, live with Kofi and guests are straight fire. Likes are free. Yes, likes are free. Like the video. Race Mode. Edmund has been a long time supporter of the channel. This guy, I've seen him at restaurants. I've hung out with him a couple times. Like he's been a really big supporter, and thank you for that, man. Marine X, great convo. Thanks for the content. Honestly, this
my
show's gonna
dog
be fairly.
Marine.
This show's gonna be regular. You're gonna see Terry again. I honestly might just do these shows like multiple times a week and only upload one long form video like a week. I love these. Cam, who's got bigger arms? Depends on which. I'm not on a. I'm wearing a sweater. Me and Terry are entirely different body types. If
Right.
if you put us beside each other, they're not the same thing. It would be more like you probably would be if we're playing football. You're probably playing what, half or corner, maybe outside linebacker. You're like 5'10".
Probably OLB or
Yeah, you're like
corner.
out.
Maybe a wing back sometimes, but
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like it's 2023. So, like, yeah, wingbacks are like 200 pounds and like 5'10". They're not
right,
even sub 200 anymore. Like,
right.
I'm playing defensive end, maybe three tech. Like, those aren't the same. That's not the same dude.
Right.
I played fullback in college though. That was fun. Um, photo my okay. Is it photo me Ike? Because I always get this wrong, but I've been following this man for when I was doing photography in like 2019, and watching his channel grow. But shout out to him for the biggest super chat we've ever gotten here. But that's one of the same reasons I started my channel all those years ago. Is 2016. Kofi. Oh, thank you, man.
Dope.
I didn't see many black photographers in the YouTube space. Now there's a lot of us keep it up. Honestly, there's way more than you think, man. Like I didn't realize when I had a couple of videos pop off like simultaneously. And then I didn't realize how many people, not even from like North America, how many people from like Africa, like Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, started reaching out in the DMs. Like I'm going to Ghana in December, and I've had like maybe 14 DMs being like, "Hey, are you going to do a meetup in Ghana?" I'm like, I was just going to go see my uncles and stuff, but like, I guess, but like I didn't realize how global and how big the community is just by being somebody that is more of a representative to that community. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I want to give you your flowers while we on stream, bro. Seriously. Me and Devin and CJ have had so many conversations about you.
Oh shit!
If you didn't
Thanks,
know,
man.
now you know.
Thank you, man.
And I just want to take my hat off to you because you literally have your pedal to the metal. And no matter what, you are uploading and grinding it out. No matter if the video gets 100 views or you had them take off ones like you had a crazy run. And we all see it and we all watch it. I just want to salute you, man, because what we do, especially, and again, I hate playing a race car, but some things spades are spades. It's a lot harder to crack into this camera space at, being us than it
Yeah.
is maybe an entertainment space or something like that. And we take that, you know what I'm saying? But it is harder. So I salute you for accepting the challenge, taking up the challenge, and powering through the challenge. And I can't see I can't wait to see where you're gonna go, man. I can't. I done had conversations with Armando about you. I done had
No.
conversations with, like, it's so dope just to watch you blow up, man. And I can't wait to see where you go, bro. So salute to you.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And it's weird that like and I talk to like my family members, like I talk my brother's ear off about this all the time too, because it doesn't feel real in a lot of ways. It's uploading because like I like teaching, and if I like didn't play football, I would have been an elementary school teacher. Um, but like that's something that I enjoy, and like building my skill set as a creator and also building it up on YouTube like heavily is for the function of being able to like retell that to somebody else. Hang on. The moon. Hang on, while you're on the phone real quick, hang on 1 second. Terry's getting a call from Lumix and Sony right now because they heard some of the stuff that we were saying and they're not happy with it. So, but I'm gonna go to the comments while Terry's on the phone real quick.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, you back? Okay.
I heard that. I heard that.
Sorry, this is Sharon from Lumix. We actually don't appreciate what you're typing about. We actually want that S5X2 back now. But yeah, no, I think my big thing is like the thing I'm really appreciative to is actually being put into those circles, right? Like Armando reached out to me on Twitter of all places, and was like, "Yo, I watched you from like 2K till now," and I'm like, "People watched at 2K? That's wild." And then he kind of brought me into the fold and like learning about how the YouTube game kind of works, kind of thing, right? Even being like I talked to Brandon last week, I talked to Cam the other day too, and like it's cool. Being able also to document it, but also involve people in real time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool to be able to have chats like this, and then maybe at one point when we're both 100K plus, we'd be like, "Yo, remember that live stream we did in 2023?" And you had to do it from a daycare because Cleveland got hit by a tornado. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the kind of things that I think helps me make content, but also from the teaching aspect. I would have taught elementary school if I didn't do the football thing. If I didn't try doing bodybuilding after football, like I would have went and been a grade 3 teacher teaching math, right? And I think some of that comes out in this content creator thing in the camera space in order to teach other people. So just as much as I'm receiving flowers, I got to give that back because a lot of you guys opened the door to have that happen.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it a lot, bro. And
No worries.
I think it's also crazy, like so many people that I used to watch, like Armando, like I talked to Armando, like he's one of my great friends now. But it's dope to watch so many people that I used to, and I hate the word idolize or look up to, but let me give people their flowers, yo. Great to watch people that I used to watch and learn from and inspire to do something like that. And now I'm like friends with so many of them on a first name text basis, and like it's so dope, man. So I'm thankful for the flowers you just gave. I receive it, man. And the last thing I want to throw in there before we move on is y'all start giving your creators that you like. Give them let them know, man. The game we play is a very lonely game, and sometimes we don't know if, and we push through it even if we don't know. But sometimes it's good to hear like, yo, You doing great. We really appreciate what you do, man. So that's why I'm taking the time out to give Kofi his flowers because a lot of people don't tell us these things, man.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of YouTubers trying to sell you stuff. I'm just kidding. We got
Right.
another super chat. Ronald Wayne, I think I just followed you on IG, and your work is dope, man. Love the episode. Both you guys are an inspiration. Respect the grind. Let me know if you're ever in Miami. I haven't even told you, Terry, about this, but I'm trying to get a U.S. trip going. I'm gonna try to go to Ohio, Chicago, Florida, L.A., and back. I don't know when I'm gonna do it, but I want to do them all in one go because what I want to try to do for the channel direction is like, I still have complete interest in DPing. I still like YouTube as well, but I want to kind of like go DP first and then YouTube second. But I want to try a collab series where
I was about to. You
I
got to
know.
call a major pause on that.
I know. It's just, you know what? That's the filmmaker language, bro. Like, I'll say it
I
and like
know.
no one says
I know.
anything.
I know. I know.
But anyways, what I wanted to do is be the cinematographer for other creators' ideas. So you get to be in the director's chair. So because everybody has a different walk of life. So like I told Cam, I'm like, yo, Cam, if you have a project that you want to direct and you want me to shoot, I'll give me some cowboy boots. I'll get my cowboy hat on. I'll go to LA and we'll get it done. And I want to be able to, and I keep telling this every party that's on the live, is being able to shoot those type of projects, but you're also able to really be the filmmaking community where people can tell the different perspectives of how a project works. So for example, if you have something about, if say there's a documentary on being a family man or anything like that, we shoot that doc, your video becomes the director's point of view. My point of view is going to be the camera department's point of view. Then maybe we have somebody that does the sound design or the editing, and they get to talk about it from an editing point of view. So then that way, the filmmaking community or the camera community is actually a community because you're working on one project, but there's 6 of you, and you get to see the different perspectives, and then you rotate that around. So maybe I'm a director one day, and somebody else is shooting it, and somebody else is editing it. And I think when you have that in a way where you have a bunch of creators that are able to do that, maybe different pockets, or maybe it's all on one thing, that's where you get that kind of I call it the YouTube cinematic universe or whatever it is. That was just a made up term, but Marvel does it really well, right? Like you could watch a Spider-Man movie and you're like, oh shit, is that Doctor Strange? Oh, is that
Right.
Iron Man?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Then when you see the Iron Man pop up on your Disney Plus, you're like, hey, that guy was in the Spider-Man movie. I didn't really feel him his character that much, but you know, I watched this movie, right? And then they watch the Iron Man movies. You're like, yo, is that Thor? Who's this Thor guy? And then you watch the Thor movies and you watch and you're like, oh, Loki has a TV. You know what I mean? You go through that rabbit hole, and I think that's the fitness community. And I don't know how much you watched about it, but the fitness community in like 2016 did it expertly. You'd watch a Christian Guzman video, and then you would see a Heidi video, then Shawley, then Rust, and then you'd see their videos that they're collabing with other people, and then they, like you end up watching 20 different people that were in the same gym on the same day, but you get a different experience every time.
That's a great idea, bro. Just be careful going to Chicago.
Yeah, I gotta be careful. Yo, Josh Martin better not have too much beef with me because he might lead me down the wrong ways.
Chicago, you might leave full of. Yeah, never mind.
You know what? I'll stop driving. I'll turn around when the traffic lights don't turn on no more.
Yeah. You see a
That's
shoe hanging on that power line, bro?
Nah, just
Time
let me
to
just
get
turn
up out
around.
of
Let me just. I know I'm from. I know I'm not from there. I know I'm from Toronto. If I keep driving and suddenly there's no one on the street, the shoes on the power lines and the traffic lights are off, I'm just gonna
Bad
turn back.
idea.
Let me go back to the north side. It's okay. Hang on. That's how these collab videos feel like, watching and learning from independent creators. Then it's the magic when they come together. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I think we talk about community, we talk about the collection of us so often, but then when it comes down to it, very few very few and far between do you see a lot of collabs happening with creators working on one project. It's maybe 1 or 2 people. You don't really see it from a group, right? And that's what the kind of the point of the live streams are. Hang on a second. I think a lot of these things is fire emojis and super chats, but we've been on it for a little bit. Terry, I need to ask, what is next for you on the channel? You said you're working on some videos. We're both going to Utah tomorrow, going to meet up with a couple of creators that are in this chat. There's an event that Sony is holding for a lot of us. What stuff are next for you? And you've taken you've taken a little bit of a different direction with your channel and some of the videos in terms of being able to talk about your personal life and kind of where you are, not only just as a creator, but also just as a man in general. How are some of those things changing, and how are those things going forward, and what are you looking forward to?
I think after, because I got like another probably 8 videos of gear that I have to get out. But I'm getting to a point where I'm burnt out on gear, man, and I want to get back to motivating people, which is like my main passion is just helping people through challenging situations, and teaching. So some type of way I want to leverage this gear platform I have, to start helping other men who are either trying to get into the space or helping empower through the space. So I think next steps for me are just like how do I turn this into something that obviously makes more money because I'm full time now, so I need a bigger buffer financially. How do I put systems in place to start to make that extra income, and how do I start making a genuine connection with people where it's not so much you're only coming because I got the latest piece of gear. So that's my goal for the next couple months. But aside from that, man, I'm thankful. God is blessing me, man. So I ain't gonna complain about nothing, bro. I ain't gonna complain about anything.
Yes, sir. Nah, man, it was super dope to finally get this going, and really excited to chat too. Like, this was supposed to be the first episode, man. Like, it just took me a while to get it going.
A year ago.
Yeah, facts. Honestly, it was like a year ago last summer. I'm like, yeah, I think I want to start doing this live stream thing, but nah, it's good to have them out. And honestly, I think there are topics outside of the camera space that I want to use this live stream on that I'd love to get you on as well. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I literally will see you tomorrow. It's like that. It's a weird thing to say, but I will literally see you and a lot of other guys in the chat tomorrow. But for those of you guys that enjoyed this, you are going to be able to see the replay. If you guys do have any comments, leave them down below. Thank you, everybody who liked the video, sent super chats. This live stream actually is going to be fairly regular. I actually might have 2 more this week because we are going to be at Condo. There's going to be a bunch of people there that I kind of want to get on the live as well. But this has been myself. I'm Kofi. This has been, well, Terry can sign himself out. But yeah, man, we'll see you in the next one.
Hey, man, thank you for having me on here. I'm honored to be on here. I thank you for making this happen. And hey, y'all, go over to my channel and like a video or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, go send Terry some love. Honestly, like go over to the channel. He has amazing stuff on tech reviews. I love the balance approach. This man, like, out of the most balanced person that reviews camera gear, I love Terry stuff because he'll always give you it from both ends, and he'll always give it to you. He'll give you the real. He's not gonna fluff things up to make you feel better. But yeah, man,
I'm a paid shield. Remember, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you cash in 2 checks.
Right. I appreciate it, man.
No worries.
Much love, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right, perfect. Let me just turn off the stream. And perfect. That went